doesn't turn out the way they tell me it will. And it just gets worse and worse. And I don't know what to do anymore.
Your Honor, I've moved to withdraw at this time. This case needs to go back to the appointed counsel.
Miss Michaels, hold on just 1 second. Miss Michaels, you need to conduct yourself like this is a courtroom. If you cannot do that, then they're gonna remove you because I still have business to conduct.
Devin Michaels didn't just kill her boyfriend. She actually removed his head and burned him with bleach. But it gets even darker. Prosecutors say she did it so she could keep sleeping with and even marry her own stepson. When investigators arrived, they found a scene straight out of a nightmare. A head's body wrapped in blankets, bloody sheets, and bleach bottles scattered around a failed cleanup. Now Devin insists she's innocent and blames Jonathan's son for the murder. But is that the truth, or just her last attempt to save herself? Let's dive in. Now, this case is chaotic from the jump, so let's walk through it slowly. Devin Michaels wasn't just anyone. She was a former adult film star, an influencer who cycled through names like Nikki Fairchild and Tracy Tavares.
Hey everyone, it's me, Devin Michaels. Come say hi.
At some point, she got in her relationship with Jonathan Willett, and it was messy from the word go. Some reports say they were never legally married. Others say they tied the knot in 2012 and split in 2018. Either way, they share 2 daughters and a long, complicated history. But then the story takes a turn no one could have predicted. After things fell apart with Jonathan, Devin didn't move on with a new man. She married Jonathan's son, Devier, who was 29 at the time. They claimed it was just for insurance, nothing romantic, nothing strange. But the photos prosecutors brought to court told a different story entirely. And when Devier took a stand, he confirmed it. Their marriage was real. Their relationship started when he was 19, and he never told his dad about what was going on.
Eventually, after the girls are born, do you and Nikki enter into an intimate relationship?
Yes, sir.
About how old were you at that time?
19.
Meanwhile, Devin and Jonathan were in the middle of a brutal custody battle. Devin already had a child abuse charge on her record, which didn't exactly help her case. Jonathan had full custody, and it was clear she was losing the control she'd once had. Multiple witnesses later told the court they heard her say things like, "Life would be easier if he wasn't around," and that line hit the jury like a brick. But here's the part that twists the knife even more. Despite all the drama, Jonathan still wanted to fix things. He was planning to move in with Devin and their daughters to try again as a family. He genuinely believed they could make it work, but Devin, she had other plans, and what happened next would shock even the most seasoned detectives. At the time, Jonathan was living with his mother, Yoko Willett, and her boyfriend in Henderson, Nevada, right outside Las Vegas. On the night of August 6, 2023, Devin stopped by, supposedly to talk about the new living arrangement. And according to Yoko, she saw Devin and Jonathan together around 10 p.m., calm enough that nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But a few hours later, everything shifted. Yoko later testified, through a Japanese translator, that she woke up around 3 a.m. to a loud noise.
Some strange noise.
Okay, was it like a bang?
Bang me, that's all. So something like that.
She said she didn't think much of it in the moment and went back to sleep. She had no idea that the sound she heard was likely the moment everything changed. The next morning, around 8 a.m., Yoko went to check on her son and walked straight into a nightmare. Jonathan's body was on the floor, wrapped in blankets and soaked in blood. She called 911 immediately. The call, shaky, panicked, almost impossible to understand through her sobbing, was played for the jury during the trial.
Downstairs, and my son is on the bed, and I open the cover.
You can hear the disbelief in her voice as she tries to make sense of what she's seeing. Detectives later said it was one of the most haunting calls they'd ever heard. Body cam footage shows officers and paramedics entering the home, following the trail of blood to the bedroom. Jonathan's body was there, but his head was missing. You can hear the moment the officers realize it, that stunned, quiet pause before someone finally speaks.
Let's lock this down then.
Investigators also found bottles of bleach and ammonia scattered around the body. They believe someone had tried to clean up or control the bleeding, a sloppy attempt to hide an incredibly violent scene. But investigators were about to uncover something even stranger, because Devin didn't just leave a crime scene behind. She left a trail, and that trail told a story she couldn't talk her way out of. When investigators sat down with Devin, she was weirdly calm, almost detached. But the second they asked real questions, her story started falling apart. First, she said she never went inside Jonathan's house. Then suddenly she did go inside, but left early. She also claimed Jonathan was alive and smoking in the garage when she walked out, but Jonathan's mother shut that down immediately. She testified she and Devin were talking at 1 a.m. inside the house, and Devin told her Jonathan was already in bed, asleep after drinking and smoking pot.
Yoko then noticed that the lights were on in John's room, but decided, hey, if he's asleep, I'm not going to go in there. She returns back upstairs.
Those two stories don't just clash, they cancel each other out. Then her phone data exposed everything. Her device pinged in the same locations as Jonathan's phone long after he was already dead. So she didn't just leave, she left with his phone.
But we noted that the return showed that John's phone was at the home on Paladura, which is where he resides, from 10 o'clock till it began to travel or move at about 2:04 a.m.
Both phones hit a tower near her home at 2:45 a.m., and the next morning her kids found Jonathan's phone in the driveway, cracked, bloody, and completely wiped of notifications. They actually handed it to Devin while she was talking to detectives, and she acted shocked, like she had no idea how it got there.
She was surprised about the phone being at the residence, and it really threw her off when her daughter handed her the phone. And it changed the tone.
Then she tried to explain the blood away, claiming Jonathan had injured himself.
But in this case, she went into great detail about the table, how it folded, where it was in the garage, how he had hurt himself.
Detectives didn't buy that for a second, and when they searched her home, things spiraled even further. Investigators found Jonathan's wallet, his social security card, and other personal items tucked away like she'd been keeping trophies, and surveillance footage filled in the rest. Hours before the murder, cameras caught Devin and Jonathan inside a convenience store together. After the murder, other cameras showed Devin driving back and forth between her home and the crime scene multiple times. When detectives pushed harder, Devin changed her story again. She claimed she hit Jonathan accidentally with a candlestick during a late-night massage because he tried to coerce her. She insisted she didn't mean to kill him. She just wanted to hurt him enough to figure out what to do with her kids.
John was lying on his stomach, not a threat, in the midst of a massage, face down, unexpected, and the defendant admits that she returned to the bed, bashed him over the head with that club or stick, and that John went limp at that time.
But her next confession stopped detectives cold. Devin said she removed Jonathan's head, placed it in a laundry basket, drove it home, and tossed it in a neighbor's trash can. No panic, no guilt, just a flat explanation for something horrifying. And then came the moment that still makes detectives shiver. During her interview, a garbage truck beeped outside. Devin looked at the window, smirked, and said, "That's Jonathan going bye-bye." Detectives froze. If she was telling the truth, the most crucial piece of evidence, was already gone, and investigators never found it. They never found the murder weapons either. But one detail still haunts this investigation. Inside Devin's living room, officers found several swords. They photographed them, but didn't swab them. Not for blood, not for tissue, not for anything. Given the circumstances, it left people wondering how something that obvious slipped past everyone.
It swabbed? Is that what you're asking? No.
Still, investigators were sure about one thing. Devin wasn't confused or overwhelmed. She knew exactly what she did, and she showed zero remorse. And once this case hit the courtroom, even more twists surfaced, and they stunned everyone all over again. Now, remember that child abuse case? Well, Devin actually went before a judge just 2 days after Jonathan's murder, and let's just say the hearing did not go in her favor.
Ms. Tavares, is there anything that you want to say on your own behalf?
Video the 8 News Now investigators obtained shows 45-year-old Devin Michaels in court days after prosecutors suspect she killed the father of her children.
This time, she wasn't even using the same name. She showed up as Tracy Tavares, facing allegations that one of her daughters told her teacher she got a whooping at home from her stepfather, who is also her half-brother. Another red flag? The child said Devin herself had given her a whooping the week before over apple juice. A CPS worker interviewed both Devin and the child. Devin admitted she spanked her daughter and hit her with a belt, but when she stood in front of the judge, she tried to clean it up, saying she'd done counseling and worked on herself.
Done counseling classes, therapy, tests, psych evaluations. I've done everything, and everyone I've spoken to say I'm not an person, and they don't feel there's any risk for me to her or would ever do this again.
The judge wasn't buying it. She was sentenced to a year of probation, but that didn't last long. Once Devin was charged with open murder, the probation was revoked immediately. And honestly, looking at what happened to Jonathan, it's clear those anger issues never went away. If anything, they escalated into something far darker. And the drama that unfolded next made her trial look less like a legal proceeding and more like a full-blown soap opera meltdown. At first, Devin agreed to a plea deal, second-degree murder with a deadly weapon. That deal would have capped her sentence at about 15 years with the possibility of parole. And let me tell you, Jonathan's family was furious. 15 years for a decapitation, they felt it was a slap in the face. Her sentencing was set for July 17th, 2025, and everyone walked in expecting a simple, straightforward hearing. But Devin walked in like she was gearing up for a plot twist. She stood up, announced she was innocent, and accused police and prosecutors of manipulating the case.
The way that they manipulated and altered and deleted things is wrong. They should not be able to do it, and they have.
The whole courtroom went still. The judge had already shut down her attempts to undo the plea before, but this time, prosecutors said, "All right then, we'll pull the deal."
You pled guilty, ma'am.
Mr. Michaels, you are not to address the state. You are to address me. You are. You're addressing Mr. Giordani. You are going to address me.
And just like that, Devin went from a guaranteed 15-year sentence to facing first-degree murder. Then the chaos got worse. Her own lawyer, clearly done babysitting her meltdowns, asked to withdraw from the case. Devin snapped. She started crying, hyperventilating, completely unraveling right there in open court. The judge was not impressed.
Move to withdraw at this time. This case needs to go back to the appointed counsel.
Miss Michaels, hold on just one second. Miss Michaels, you need to conduct yourself like this is a courtroom. If you cannot do that, then they're going to remove you because I still have business to conduct.
Yes.
And this was only the warm-up. The actual trial kicked off on November 12th, and the prosecution came out swinging. One of the attorneys told the jury to buckle up because you're in for a wild ride, and he wasn't lying. He showed them crime scene photos, including the image of Jonathan's mutilated body. Then he held up pictures of Devin, Deviere, and the children, the family Devin was trying to protect.
You will learn that this is the reality of the situation before John was killed, and that the defendant wanted John out of the picture.
The state argued the murder was premeditated, cold, and brutal. They pointed to the savage nature of the attack, the post-mortem decapitation, and Devin's manipulative behavior in the days leading up to the killing. Then came the officer's testimony. Jurors listened as the responding officers described the crime scene, and one detail stood out immediately. There wasn't nearly as much blood as there should have been. This was a decapitation. There should have been spatter everywhere, but there wasn't. Not on the walls, not on the floor, not even where they expected the attack to have happened.
The body was lying on the bed that was in that room, kind of lying across the bed.
Okay. Were there blankets?
Yes, there were. The blood at the scene was primarily limited to the space of the bed itself. The way that the body was positioned on the bed, the torso and the neck were up towards the edge of the bed. And then the severed head was not there, so the neck was exposed.
Told investigators something very specific. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing, and likely controlled the bleeding by holding a container or directing it into something. It was a small detail, but it made the entire room go quiet, because it meant this wasn't just violent, it was calculated. And that opened the door to another uncomfortable question. Was the body moved? And that's exactly the angle the defense jumped on next. So Devin defense pointed the finger at someone else, and the person she picked, her own husband, Deviere. Yep, the son of the man she was accused of killing.
At the beginning of his interview, he admits that he's been drinking. He claims that upon hearing of his father's death, he'd got his drink on.
Her attorney tried to spin it like he had the real motive. He didn't get along with his dad. He was about to get kicked out of the house, and Jonathan was supposedly stealing his wife.
Why is Deviere covering for Deviere? And why is Devin covering for Deviere?
The defense really leaned into the dysfunction between Devin and Deviere. They showed texts where she called him a liar, a cheater, and even asked for a divorce just days before the murder. They also pointed out that Deviere lied to police about the living situation. In court, Deviere admitted his father had just found out about the marriage and planned to move him out, but he had nothing to do with what happened.
You lied to him about the relationship that you have with your wife, and you've lied to him about the living arrangement where you're getting kicked out by your father, correct? He's moving you out.
Yes, sir, because I didn't know what exactly had happened.
He also described the moment he found out his dad had been murdered, and that alone was emotional enough.
That he had passed away, and I didn't get any information on how he actually passed away. It was just that he passed.
Okay.
And is it, if you remember, that you learned she's arrested for the murder of your dad?
I want to say a week afterwards, maybe 2 weeks.
Still, investigators never considered him a real suspect. There was no phone data, no surveillance footage, and no physical evidence placing him anywhere near the crime scene. But the defense kept swinging anyway. They argued that because he worked in home security, he had access to power tools, and even floated the idea that he killed his father somewhere else and quietly moved the body. Then the medical examiner, Dr. Stephanie Yagi, took the stand. She told the jury that removing Jonathan's head likely took 2 tools, a knife first, then a power saw, and there were signs of multiple attempts.
Indicate there were previous attempts to use a sharp force injury in this area.
She said there's no evidence someone strangled Willett before his death, but concluded he was dead before whoever killed him decapitated him and poured something on him to burn his skin.
When the defense tried to argue Devin wasn't strong enough to do it, Dr. Yagi didn't flinch. She explained that most of the people who move bodies in her office are women, and they managed just fine. And because the head was never recovered, the coroner couldn't determine the exact manner of death, only that it was homicide, violent, intentional. But even with all of that, the biggest twist of the trial hadn't even hit yet, and when it finally did, it sent the entire courtroom into disbelief. The trial dragged on for 2 weeks, and Devin's defense tried every trick possible, shifting blame, poking holes, tossing out wild theories, anything to get a not guilty verdict. But the jury wasn't buying it, not with the evidence, not with the contradictions, not with her behavior. And after just 2 hours of deliberation, they came back with the decision everyone in that courtroom felt coming: guilty of Jonathan's murder.
We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Devin Jade Michaels, as follows. Count 1, murder with use of a deadly weapon. Guilty of first-degree murder with use of a deadly weapon.
Now, Devin's sentencing is set for January 2026, and she's facing 25 years to life in prison. But here's the part that hits the hardest. The people left carrying the real weight of this horror aren't in a courtroom. They're her children, kids who now have no father, no mother, and a lifetime of trauma tied to the person who was supposed to protect them. They're the ones who will grow up knowing their mother didn't just hurt someone. She destroyed their family from the inside out. And the real question that lingers long after this case ends is chilling. How many more people like Devin are out there, looking perfectly normal on the outside, while hiding something far darker underneath?